Question 1. In California, what document is generally required to purchase or acquire a handgun or long gun from a licensed firearms dealer? A hunting license. B. A concealed carry weapon (CCW) permit. C. A firearm safety certificate (FSC). D. Proof of prior firearm ownership. Answer: C. A firearm safety certificate (FSC). Explanation: California law mandates that most individuals must possess a firearm safety certificate (FSC) before they can legally purchase or receive a handgun or long gun through a licensed firearms dealer. The FSC demonstrates that the individual has passed a test covering basic firearm safety principles. Think of it like a basic permit showing you understand the fundamental rules before acquiring a firearm. Always make sure your FSC is valid when planning a firearm transfer. Question 2. What is the minimum percentage score required to pass the California Firearm Safety Certificate test? 60%. B. 70%. C. 75%. D. 80%. Answer: C. 75%. Explanation: to successfully obtain a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, in California, you must achieve a score of at least 75% on the written test. This passing score ensures that individuals seeking to acquire firearms have a foundational understanding of safe handling, storage, and relevant laws. It's important to study the Firearm Safety Certificate Study Guide thoroughly to be prepared for the test questions. Aiming for a score higher than 75% is always a good goal to ensure a strong grasp of the material. Question 3. How long is a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, valid from the date of issuance? 1 year. B. 2 years. C. 5 years. D. 10 years. Answer: C. 5 years. Explanation: a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is valid for a period of 5 years from the date it is issued. After 5 years, the certificate expires, and you would need to retake the test to obtain a new FSC if you wish to purchase or acquire another firearm. It's a good idea to keep track of your FSC's expiration date to avoid issues during a future firearm transaction. Think of the 5-year validity like the expiration date on some licenses or certifications. Question 4. If your California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is lost or destroyed, how can you obtain a replacement? A. You must retake the entire FSC test. B. You can request a replacement from any California Police Department. C. You must apply for a duplicate from a DOJ-certified instructor or vendor and pay a fee. D. There is no replacement. You must purchase a new one after 5 years. Answer: C. You must apply for a duplicate from a DOJ-certified instructor or vendor and pay a fee. Explanation: should your Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, be lost or destroyed, you do not have to retake the test. You can obtain a duplicate certificate by applying to a Department of Justice (DOJ) certified instructor or vendor who is authorized to issue FSCs. There is typically a fee associated with obtaining a replacement certificate. Keep your FSC in a safe place once you receive it to avoid the need for a duplicate. Question 5. Which government agency in California oversees the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, program and related regulations? A. California Highway Patrol (CHP). B. California Department of Fish and Wildlife. C. California Department of Justice (DOJ). D. California State Sheriff's Association. Answer: C. California Department of Justice (DOJ). Explanation: the California Department of Justice (DOJ) is the state agency responsible for developing, implementing, and overseeing the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, program. This includes setting the standards for the test, certifying instructors, and managing the system for issuing certificates. All aspects of the FSC program, from the test content to who can issue the certificate, fall under the purview of the California DOJ. Understanding the DOJ's role helps clarify the official source of firearm regulations in the state. Question 6. Which of the following individuals is generally exempt from the requirement to possess a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, when purchasing or acquiring a firearm? A. An individual who previously owned a firearm 10 years ago. B. An active duty member of the United States military stationed in California. C. An individual with a valid California hunting license. D. An individual over the age of 65. Answer B. An active duty member of the United States military stationed in California. Explanation: California law provides specific exemptions to the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, requirement for certain categories of individuals who are presumed to have received sufficient firearm training. Active duty members of the United States military, including those stationed in California, are among those generally exempt from needing an FSC. Other exemptions include sworn law enforcement officers and holders of a valid California Concealed Carry Weapon (CCW) permit. If you believe you might be exempt, verify the specific requirements with a licensed dealer or the DOJ. Question 7. What is the primary purpose of the California Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) program? A. To register all firearm owners in the state. B. To ensure individuals purchasing firearms have a basic understanding of firearm safety laws and handling. C. To collect fees for state law enforcement agencies. D. To limit the types of firearms that can be legally owned. Answer B. To ensure individuals purchasing firearms have a basic understanding of firearm safety laws and handling. Explanation: the main goal of the Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) program in California is to reduce firearm accidents and enhance public safety by ensuring that anyone acquiring a firearm demonstrates a basic knowledge of safe gun handling, storage, and applicable state laws. The test covers fundamental safety rules and legal requirements you must know before taking possession of a firearm. Passing the FSC test means you've taken an important step in responsible firearm ownership. Question 8. At a minimum, what type of identification must you present to a DOJ-certified instructor or vendor to take the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test? A valid school ID card. B. A valid California driver's license or identification card. C. A passport from any country. D. A birth certificate. Answer B. A valid California driver's license or identification card. Explanation: to verify your identity and eligibility to take the test, you must present a valid, government-issued photo identification to the DOJ-certified instructor or vendor. A valid California driver's license or California identification card is the most common and readily accepted form of identification for taking the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test. Always bring your current official California ID when you go to take the test. Question 9. Besides handguns, what other category of firearms typically requires the purchaser to possess a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, for acquisition or transfer through a licensed dealer? Antique firearms manufactured before 1898. B. Curio or relic firearms. C. Rifles and shotguns, long guns. D. Airsoft guns. Answer C. Rifles and shotguns, long guns. Explanation: the requirement for a Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) in California applies to the purchase or acquisition of both handguns and long guns, which include rifles and shotguns, when transferred through a licensed firearms dealer. This ensures that individuals acquiring any common type of modern firearm through the standard retail process have demonstrated basic safety knowledge. Whether buying a pistol or a shotgun, plan to have your valid FSC ready. Question 10. Can an individual who is legally prohibited from owning firearms due to a previous conviction or other disqualifier obtain a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC? A. Yes, the FSC only tests safety knowledge, not eligibility. B. Yes, but they cannot use it to purchase a firearm. C. No, prohibited persons are not eligible to obtain an FSC. D. Yes, if they obtain a waiver from the local police chief. Answer C. No, prohibited persons are not eligible to obtain an FSC. Explanation: eligibility to obtain a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is tied directly to eligibility to possess firearms. If an individual is legally prohibited from owning or possessing firearms under California or federal law, they are also prohibited from obtaining an FSC. The FSC is essentially a credential required for legal firearm acquisition, and being a prohibited person disqualifies you from both. Always understand your legal eligibility before attempting to obtain an FSC or acquire a firearm. Question 11. At what minimum age can an individual typically take the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test and obtain the certificate? 21 years old. B. 18 years old. C. 16 years old with parental consent. D. There is no minimum age. Answer B. 18 years old. Explanation. While California law has additional age requirements for purchasing certain firearms, specifically 21 for handguns, an individual can take the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test and obtain the certificate itself starting at age 18. This allows younger adults to get the required safety credential even if they are not yet old enough to purchase all types of firearms. Getting the FSC at 18 is the first step toward legal firearm acquisition once other age and eligibility requirements are met. Question 12. Where can you typically take the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test? Only at county sheriff's departments. B. At any licensed firearm dealer or other DOJ-certified location. C. Online through the California DOJ website. D. At state parks that allow hunting. Answer B. At any licensed firearm dealer or other DOJ-certified location. Explanation. The California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test is administered by Department of Justice, DOJ, certified instructors and vendors. The most common places to find these certified individuals are at licensed firearm dealerships throughout the state. You can typically walk into a local gun store that offers the service and take the test there. Look for a licensed dealer in your area if you need to take the FSC test. Question 13. If you receive a firearm as a gift from an immediate family member in California, does the transfer require a licensed firearms dealer and thus potentially an FSC? A. No. Gifts between family members are exempt from transfer requirements. B. Yes, most transfers, even gifts between family members, must go through a licensed dealer and follow the same rules as a sale. C. Only if the firearm is a handgun. D. Only if the family member receiving the gift is under 21. Answer B. Yes, most transfers, even gifts between family members, must go through a licensed dealer and follow the same rules as a sale. Explanation. In California, most transfers of firearms, including those between immediate family members, such as parent-child or grandparent-grandchild, must be processed through a licensed firearms dealer. This transfer process involves the standard background check and requires the recipient to possess a valid Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, unless an exemption applies. Treating family transfers like standard sales ensures legal compliance and helps prevent firearms from going to prohibited persons. Question 14. If you possess a valid California Concealed Carry Weapon (CCW) permit, are you still required to obtain a Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) to purchase a handgun or long gun? A. Yes, the CCW permit does not cover firearm purchases. B. No, having a valid CCW permit is an exemption to the FSC requirement. C. Only if you are purchasing a handgun. D. Only if your CCW permit was issued in a different county. Answer B. No, having a valid CCW permit is an exemption to the FSC requirement. Explanation. Individuals who hold a valid California Concealed Carry Weapon (CCW) permit are recognized as having met certain training standards that include firearm safety, making them exempt from the requirement to obtain a separate Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) to purchase or acquire a firearm. The state views the training and vetting required for a CCW permit as fulfilling the safety knowledge requirement covered by the FSC. If you have a CCW, you can typically use it instead of an FSC when buying a gun. Question 15. If you fail the California Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) test, what is the typical next step? You must wait 1 year before retesting. B. You cannot retake the test. C. You can retake the test immediately, usually after paying the test fee again. D. You must complete a state-mandated firearm training course before retesting. Answer C. You can retake the test immediately, usually after paying the test fee again. Explanation. If you do not pass the California Firearm Safety Certificate (FSC) test on your first attempt, you are allowed to retake it. There is typically no waiting period mandated by state law. You can usually attempt the test again right away, though you will likely have to pay the testing fee again. It's wise to review the study guide before retaking the test to improve your understanding of the material you missed. Question 16. Is there a state-mandated fee to take the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test and obtain the certificate? A. No, the test is offered free to California residents. B. Yes, there is a state-mandated fee. C. Fees vary by location and are not regulated by the state. D. The fee is only required if you fail and retake the test. Answer B. Yes, there is a state-mandated fee. Explanation. California law establishes a maximum fee that can be charged for taking the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test and receiving the certificate upon passing. Licensed dealers and certified instructors collect this fee, which is remitted in part to the State Department of Justice. Be prepared to pay the set fee when you go to take your FSC test. Question 17. Does possessing a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, authorize you to carry a loaded firearm in public, either openly or concealed? Yes, the FSC is a permit to carry. B. Only if the firearm is unloaded. C. No, the FSC only demonstrates basic safety knowledge for acquisition. It is not a carrying permit. D. Yes, but only openly carried. Answer. C. No, the FSC only demonstrates basic safety knowledge for acquisition. It is not a carrying permit. Explanation. It's crucial to understand that the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is required primarily for purchasing or acquiring firearms through a licensed dealer and demonstrates basic safety knowledge. It is not a permit to carry a firearm either openly or concealed in public. Carrying a firearm in public in California typically requires a separate permit, like a concealed carry weapon (CCW) permit, or must adhere to strict unloaded open carry laws where applicable. Do not confuse your FSC with the authorization needed to carry a firearm outside your home. Question 18. What does the acronym FSC stand for in the context of California firearm laws? Federal Safety Compliance. B. Firearms Securement Code. C. Firearms Safety Certificate. D. Family Shooting Club. Answer. C. Firearms Safety Certificate. Explanation. In California Firearm Regulation, FSC is the widely used acronym for Firearms Safety Certificate. This certificate is the state-required document proving that an individual has passed the basic safety test necessary to purchase or acquire a firearm through a licensed dealer. Understanding what FSC stands for is fundamental to navigating California's firearm laws. Remember, FSC means Firearm Safety Certificate, confirming your basic safety knowledge. Question 19. If you previously owned firearms but do not possess a current or valid Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, or an exemption, are you required to obtain an FSC to purchase another firearm in California? No, prior ownership automatically exempts you. B. Yes, prior ownership does not generally provide an exemption to the FSC requirement. C. Only if the firearm is a different type than you previously owned. D. Only if your last firearm purchase was more than 5 years ago. Answer. B. Yes, prior ownership does not generally provide an exemption to the FSC requirement. Explanation. Simply having owned firearms in the past does not, by itself, exempt you from the current requirement to possess a valid Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, when purchasing or acquiring another firearm through a licensed dealer in California. Unless you fall under one of the specific statutory exemptions, like being active military, law enforcement, or having a CCW permit, you will need a current FSC regardless of past ownership. The FSC requirement is about demonstrating current safety knowledge, not just having owned guns before. Question 20. Can a valid California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, be revoked by the state? No, once issued, an FSC is valid for 5 years without exception. B. Yes, but only if the individual commits a violent crime. C. Yes, if the individual becomes prohibited from owning or possessing firearms under state or federal law. D. Yes, if the individual fails to register their firearms annually. Answer. C. Yes, if the individual becomes prohibited from owning or possessing firearms under state or federal law. Explanation. A Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is issued to individuals who are eligible to possess firearms and who pass the safety test. If after obtaining an FSC, an individual becomes legally prohibited from owning or possessing firearms due to a conviction, court order, or other disqualifying event, their FSC can be revoked. The FSC is a privilege tied to firearm eligibility, and losing eligibility means losing the privilege. Maintaining legal eligibility is crucial to keeping your FSC valid. Question 21. During the process of purchasing a firearm from a licensed dealer in California, who is responsible for verifying that the buyer possesses a valid Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, or applicable exemption? The buyer themselves. B. The California Department of Justice, DOJ. C. The licensed firearm dealer, FFL. D. Local law enforcement. Answer: C. The licensed firearm dealer, FFL. Explanation: the licensed firearms dealer, FFL, facilitating the transaction is responsible for ensuring that the prospective buyer meets all legal requirements before transferring a firearm. This includes verifying the buyer's identity, completing the background check process, and confirming that the buyer possesses a valid Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, or qualifies for a statutory exemption. The dealer acts as the gatekeeper, making sure the buyer is legally eligible according to state law. Question 22. Does the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test include a live-fire shooting proficiency component? A. Yes, you must demonstrate safe handling and accuracy on a firing range. B. Yes, but only for handgun purchases. C. No, the FSC test is a written examination on firearm safety laws and handling principles. D. Only if you have no prior shooting experience. Answer: C. No, the FSC test is a written examination on firearm safety laws and handling principles. Explanation: the California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, test is exclusively a written examination designed to assess an individual's knowledge of firearm safety rules, handling procedures, and relevant state laws. It does not involve any practical or live-fire shooting demonstration. The test focuses on confirming theoretical knowledge rather than practical shooting skill. While practical training is highly recommended, it is not part of the official FSC test requirement. Question 23. What type of crime could potentially lead to an individual becoming prohibited from owning firearms and thus ineligible for a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC? A minor traffic violation. B. Certain felony or misdemeanor convictions, or specific domestic violence restraining orders. C. Failing to vote in a state election. D. Having excessive personal debt. Answer: B. Certain felony or misdemeanor convictions, or specific domestic violence restraining orders. Explanation: California and federal law prohibit individuals who have been convicted of certain crimes, including felonies and specific violent or domestic violence-related misdemeanors, or who are subject to certain court orders like domestic violence restraining orders, from owning or possessing firearms. Becoming a prohibited person means you are not eligible to acquire firearms or obtain a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC. It is critical to understand the laws regarding prohibited persons before attempting to acquire a firearm. Question 24. If you obtained a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, less than 5 years ago but it has been over 5 years since you last purchased a firearm, is your FSC still valid for a new purchase? A. No, it expires if you don't use it within 5 years of your last purchase. B. Yes, the validity of the FSC is tied to its issue date, not the date of your last purchase. C. Only if you have proof you still own the previous firearm. D. The dealer decides based on their discretion. Answer: B. Yes, the validity of the FSC is tied to its issue date, not the date of your last purchase. Explanation: the validity period of a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is 5 years from the date it was issued, regardless of when you last purchased a firearm. As long as your FSC is still within its 5-year window, it is valid for acquiring another firearm, assuming you are still legally eligible to own guns. Keep track of the issue date on your certificate to know when it will expire. Question 25. Is an individual who is temporarily visiting California from another state generally required to obtain a California Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, to purchase a firearm from a licensed dealer in California? Yes, the FSC is required for all firearm purchases through CA dealers, regardless of residency. B. No, they can use a firearm safety course certificate from their home state. C. No, as a non-resident they are exempt from the FSC requirement. D. Only if their home state does not require a safety certificate. Answer. Yes, the FSC is required for all firearm purchases through CA dealers, regardless of residency. Explanation. California law generally requires anyone purchasing or acquiring a firearm through a licensed dealer within the state to possess a valid Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, or qualify for a specific exemption, regardless of whether they are a California resident or a visitor. The requirement applies to the transaction occurring within California. If you are visiting California and wish to purchase a firearm here, you will likely need to obtain a California FSC unless you meet one of the state's exemptions.